Well, I was in a very conservative area in South Texas. In elementary and middle school, I went to a very small school. My class size was 36.
A lot of people on my wall are actually gay. Like, Rimbaud is a poet and he was gay.
I've been accepting of the LGBTQI community for the longest of times.
I expressed myself as a woman for such a long time because it was what was presented to me. A lot of my exploration recently has had to do a lot more with my gender.
He said, "Do you feel like you are being treated properly in our group?" The fact that he took that time and he was that respectful and genuine about it was comforting.
It's going to be a different culture in the future, but a good one.
I guess it took a while for me to admit it to myself. It was kind of like in the back of my head. I kind of knew it, but didn't really want to believe it. I think part of that was also because I was like in a really, really conservative area.
I think I knew I wasn't always into just boys for certain my freshman year of high school. It never occurred to me that I could be masculine, that was an option. And I realized that it is like a part of myself that I want to express.
I feel it should not have been something that I had to reveal because it was there the whole time.
I identify as gay or homosexual.
I am a gay trans boy.
I would identify myself as an Asian heterosexual male, more or less.
I identify as queer and non-binary.
I do identify as gay.
I am a heterosexual female.
On the day it passed, I was really happy because I was like, finally we can stop talking about it. It's like such a basic thing that should have happened a long time ago.
I have mixed feelings about marriage equality in that I think it's a good thing for some people.
It doesn't really affect my life, but I guess it affects everyone because everyone's able to get married and it's going to be a different culture in the future.
It doesn't really have much of an immediate effect. I don't really think that laws do much to change how people think.
I do believe that although it was a great triumph for many people and for the community, we have to take it in a more nuanced way simply because a democratic and majority triumph of that sort cannot necessarily apply to the entire country.
I feel like this legislation might have had more of a polarizing effect. Those on the fence, I think, were swayed by this legislation to be more pro-gay rights. At the same time, though, it possibly calls attention to the inequality of gays.
I mean, it certainly has some weight because people trust the law and they often like justify whether things are good based on whether they're legal or not.
Yeah, I think the legislation does foster tolerance in the LGBT community because it just allows everyone to do the same thing.
There are a lot of issues with racism, classism, etc. within the queer community that I think need to be addressed.
There are a lot of people with like much more urgent concerns who are queer. I think like there are a lot of homeless gay youth, like queer youth of all kinds, like out on the street who are struggling and like desperately need help because they're queer and have nowhere to go because their families will not accept them.
Being gay in the Indian community is a little harder.
I'm trying to think more about how like my relationship to my family is based on like Asian diaspora and cultural heritage and how like it's hard to be queer.
I think being an African American has definitely shaped my identity.
I don't exactly know what my cultural background and identity are. Whether I identify as partially American, although not really, I would say, or European or Asian, I would say that all of these have come together to help me to accept more varied cultures and identities.
Having conservative and religious parents and grandparents and extended family has made it a little difficult to be able to reveal my sexual identity.
I can maybe like shift my parents' views of queerness if I can explain to them how it's not just a white thing.
My family is pretty accepting of me generally. I never worried about being at least queer in like the sexuality sense with my parents. Like they were always very nice about that. Like that was never something I worried about coming out about.
I think it's really important to focus on like a lot of the violence that's happening against particularly trans women of color.
People might believe that because this one very public issue has been solved, at least at a legal level.
The thing is, we've been focusing so much on marriage equality recently because it's an issue that concerns like the sort of wealthiest, most privileged percentile of the queer movement.
I don't think we need to see too much legislation. What we need to see is a reduction in social stigma towards these communities.
What I would have liked to see in the future is to be able to talk to my mom about it, or talk to my dad. Legislation, honestly, I don't really know.